Nata Edwards joins us to talk about his takeaways from NBA Draft Lottery Night. And Doug, finally, he gives us some of the interview takeaways after VJ Edgecombe and Tre Johnson speak to media. Who are some of the prospects that fit the Hornets DNA mold? That's all today. Locked On Hornets.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your podcast, and that includes YouTube. You see Doug Branson, he's back. We no longer, somebody on the chat yesterday I saw, or on the YouTube comment section, said that it was the Blues Clues room, which I thought was very good. It looked very much like Steve Blues Clues. We're not fans of Joey's Blues Clues. We're only fans of the Steve Blues Clues version.
I'm going to tell you, I'm just old enough. I was right outside the Blues Clues window. I never seen an episode.
Yeah, which means Nata Edwards, who's with us today as well, a family member, Ion College Basketball Podcast. I have to imagine you were a little too old for Blues Clues as well.
You forget I have like 5 siblings.
That's true, yeah.
You
the
forget
siblings
about
help.
Siblings
help.
Yeah, I've seen Blues Clues. I know Joey and Steve. Yep, I know all of them. Again,
I grew up with Barney. Barney was my
fair. Yeah, same.
It was a Blues Clues guy. But you agree, right? It's all Steve. Once Joey took over, it was done.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, Joey's the illegitimate cousin we don't have to acknowledge.
Steve, great combine measurements, wingspan.
Whew, buddy. Okay, and that'll do it for the show. I'm playing. I'm Walker Mail. Listen to me, WFNZ, every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. We appreciate everybody making us your first listen. All right, let's get your takeaways, Nata, because, oh, my God, what an NBA draft lottery it was on Monday. I was at the Hornets draft lottery watch party, which it was a party. It was a party all the way up until
funeral. It became a funeral.
The end of the commercial break, and then we see the logo a little bit earlier than we wanted to. You could hear the gasp from everybody at Legion Brewery. Not everybody was all that thrilled, to say the least. And we drank some beers afterwards, except we weren't drinking in jubilation. We were drinking just trying to make sense of all of it. What were your thoughts on how it all unfolded on Monday?
First things first, I have to ask, has everyone taken off the tinfoil hats? Are we done with the tears? Are we done?
No.
Are we done? Because are we done with the conspiracy theories? Have we stopped trying to figure out what's wrong with Ernest and Young? All of that. Have we stopped? Have we stopped? I just need to know before we go into this.
I like Ernest and Young much better. They acted like Ernest and Young, not Ernst and Young. No, in fact, our listeners, I don't think they're wearing a tinfoil hat anymore. I think they have permanently fused the tinfoil onto their scalp. No. You've got Derek commenting, lots of people want the ping pong balls weighed. Mm-hmm. They want them weighed.
Because that'll fix it. Nobody will believe it's rigged once they give you all of the measurements and then have the reporters in the room and then see the measurements and the weight. Then nobody will believe it's rigged. 100%.
You got to make sure to hit the tare on the scale, T-A-R-E, the tare on the scale, make sure it zeroes out, and then weigh those ping pong balls. Apparently there was a lottery scandal in Pennsylvania in 1980 where they made heavy ping pong balls, and that made them whatever. I don't know the science. That's why I'm podcasting. But it made certain numbers pop up, and so that's what people are speculating here. I love it.
Do people understand that, like, rigging this NBA draft lottery is quite literally racketeering? Like, you're telling me that the NBA should be tried under the RICO statute.
They don't care. They're bigger than that. I like
Rico Harrison. Rico Harrison.
I like the idea of, like, you can see the ping pong balls being weighed, and then you know how somebody will put their foot behind you on the scale to make you look like you weigh more than you actually do. I like the edge of your pinky just barely to be, just every single time for some of the ping pong balls. Anyways, I think that would be hilarious to try to put and rig a little bit more of the NBA draft lottery, because it's all rigged, right? That's what everybody is saying. You called it. I saw it on Twitter. There's a couple things that you predicted correctly, so you get to take a victory lap a couple times on this podcast. But you said you expect the Hornets to get the 4th overall pick, so you got that right. We were all hoping you did not get that right, but you ended up getting it right, Nata. So Are you cool with them getting 4? Like, obviously we wanted Cooper. I just need more thoughts on the Hornets actually picking 4th overall.
I don't mind it because, one, you didn't necessarily end up with Utah and Washington. Like, that would have been worst case scenario because I still think there's a starter level player. There's an all-star level player at 4 Like, you're going to have your choice probably of VJ Edgecombe, Tre Johnson, or Ace Bailey. I kind of like that idea. Like, no matter what happens here, you're going to get a very, very talented player that, and we'll get into the quotes later, that kind of wants to be here. That matters. So I don't mind. Like, I'm okay with everything that's going on right now. And more importantly, at this point, this team has tanked to lose games to keep this pick. It's time to now build something. That's the one thing the NBA has told small markets over and over. You got to get it out of the mud. So it's time for Jeff Peterson. He bragged about having all the analytics guys come in and learn everything and say, hey, this is going to be a new process. Okay, new process is build a sustainable playoff team. That's their words, not mine.
Doug, going to you, so we were talking about the Indiana Pacers side of things, and I brought up the 10th Eastern Conference Finals appearance in the last 30 years. Even if there was that decade where they didn't win a series, it still has been a great example of consistency as a small market team. I saw Bomani tweet out the ridiculousness of complaining about these tanking teams, these small market teams, not being at the very, very tip top of the NBA draft, right? And he was talking about some of the stars that we have right now, the best players in the game. So you could go to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Shai Gilgeous was the 11th overall selection, right? You can go to Giannis. Giannis is whatever, the 13th, 15th overall selection. You can go to a Jalen Brunson with the Knicks. Now that gets a little tricky because they did sign him in free agency. I think small markets would argue that you can't get those types of free agents. If they want to spend money on the free agents, then they're always going to get those guys. But Jalen Brunson was a real late pick. You have all of these, Tyrese Halliburton, right? Tyrese Halliburton was in the teens, I believe. He was in the double digits. So it is on the Hornets. They can't use not getting Cooper Flagg as an excuse, which goes a lot into what you've been saying for quite some time, and we've agreed. You can't use this as an excuse to, okay, we can't get out of the mud now because Cooper was the only way out. I think the NBA shows you time and time again, it's absolutely not the only way out, and it's not even the only way out to just win a playoff series. You can hit on these stars that are not the number 1 overall pick, and then you can actually win a championship with them.
Well, particularly now with the new CBA and the restrictions that it has put on teams accumulating multiple pieces of talent, now tanking just doesn't even make sense anymore. Even if you take the odds, the flattened odds out of it, if you put them in, then it certainly makes it not a great bargain. But if you just take those out of it, there are so many ways for these smaller markets to pick up enough talent to compete. Enough talent to win a championship, well, that's a little bit more difficult. You really have to nail the draft over and over again, middle of the draft, late in the draft, like OKC did. But, you don't need that number 1 overall pick to accelerate your franchise anymore. You just need to have willingness. You need to have a checkbook that you are willing to open, and you need to have smart people in your front office that can evaluate players that maybe other teams have given up on, and you feel like you can bring into your system and revitalize in a lot of the ways that Detroit did with Tobias Harris and Malik Beasley. So, yeah, there are multiple ways to do this. I think now is the time for the Hornets to explore that, particularly because they are in the unique position of having 2 players in LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller that, if they stay healthy, are still, top 50, top 40, top 30 players in this league.
I mean, at this point, the Hornets have 20 something million in cap space, and then also 26 million or 27 million expiring contracts and 3 picks within the top 34. You should be able to make something shake to where I'm not saying playoffs. I'm not even saying play-in. I'm just saying competitive. There's enough assets in this offseason alone to where they should be competitive, and there should be no excuses for having another 19-20 win season. I'm sorry.
Last thing, though, man, you look at the Eastern Conference, it's incredibly weak, especially if Giannis gets traded to the Western Conference, right? It's going to get really weak. Even with it being in a weaker Eastern Conference, I can't tell you that I expect the Hornets to be a play-in team next year. It's still a long way to go. We'll see how the rookie performs, whoever that rookie is. We'll see who they decide to bring back. I don't know. But I can't tell you that I expect them to be a playoff team, which means it's not that they're necessarily tanking. It's that how far ahead in the draft are we going to be selecting next year? I just, they can't do it again. Not the tanking part.
No.
So they might be bad enough. There's I don't even want to say a real possibility. There's a probability, in my opinion, that they're going to be bad enough to be in the lottery still. And then maybe we can actually get lucky, right? Maybe we're the 7th worst team in the league. And then we get to jump up with that, however minuscule percent chance to go get the first overall pick. That would be glorious. Welcome AJ Debantsa. That would be fantastic. But to suffer another 25 win or less season, people are already checked out. I can't do it again. I know a lot of other Hornets fans can.
The sweet spot in the NBA playoffs right now is the 3 through 6 seed, and then the sweet spot in the draft is the 9 or 10 seed, getting bounced from the play-in. So.
That's right.
Yeah, like that's the thing. Like, go be competitive. The last 2 years that the Hornets tried to be competitive as possible, they got LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller. Those are the 2 years that they jumped up in the lottery. I think there's a lesson to be learned there.
Yeah, man. All right. This is the year. Well, we'll get the number 1 overall pick for the first time since 1991. And if they don't, other teams find a way. We got to find a way, too. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast. Bees everywhere! We get the final takeaways from Doug on his combine visit. He was a part of the media scrum that was in front of VJ Edgecombe.
Scrumming it.
In front of Tre Johnson. Some interesting comments. I'm excited to get to Doug's comments on Tre Johnson's comments. And same with VJ Edgecombe, but you're not going to want to miss that. That's coming up next. Locked On Hornets. This episode is brought to you by Wayfair. The days are getting longer, the weather's warming up, and the people are spending more time outside, which means it's the perfect time to refresh your outdoor space. Whether you're working with a big backyard or a small balcony, Wayfair has everything you need to make it feel more like you. Wayfair's massive selection of outdoor essentials makes it easy to transform any space into your ideal summer setup, from comfy conversation sets to sleek dining tables and outdoor decor. They've got it all, and at prices that fit your budget. So shop a huge selection of outdoor furniture online this summer. Get to Wayfair. Go outside with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's Wayfair, wayfair.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. More Locked On Hornets ahead. Combine interview time. Where do you want to start, Doug? Because I know you were excited to discuss what Tre Johnson had to say in front of the media scrum. VJ Edgecombe had some things to say specifically about the Hornets. I know Rod Boone put some clips of that on Twitter. I thought those were interesting, especially with what kind of role he was willing to play. You steered the ship. Where do you want to go?
Yeah, so the 2 questions that I was interested in asking Tre Johnson, Ace Bailey, and VJ Edgecombe was, how do you see yourself fitting alongside LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller? Because you're going to come to a team with 2 other high draft picks, and you're going to join that wing rotation. It's almost a guarantee that if they draft one of these 3 guys, they'll eventually, maybe Josh Green starts the year, but they are eventually going to add themselves to this starting guard rotation. And the other question was, when you get in front of teams, what are you trying to communicate? And so I'll have more on like the direct quotes from some of these players as I rewatch it all and get it all transcribed. But I thought Tre Johnson had a funny, not a funny answer, but just an interesting answer to a question about how is he going to deal with coming to a team that has previously lost a lot, and is he going to be able to deal with that? And he said, yeah. Just as a person that wants to win, for sure, I would just be part of an organization that wasn't winning before I got there and started to win and show signs in that direction once I got there. I was like, yes, wow, this man interviews. Like, yes, that's how you take the question, you turn it on its head, and it shows the confidence that he has in his own abilities.
I'm not surprised about that with Tre Johnson, but also like Tre Johnson is used to a lot of losing, coming from that Texas squad that basically was mediocre all season until he really started turning it up for tournament time.
And Texas was inconsistent, right? Like they had, because they were in the SEC, they had some big time competition. So they won some games, but they also lost a lot of games because of where they were in the SEC. But what I love is, so do you love this or hate it? Because this comment could be real polarizing. You could love it with all the confidence that exudes from his pores. Once I get there, we're going to start winning. But there's the I part of this. I want to go to a losing team, and then we start winning once I get there. Who, buddy? That's something to me. Like you could brush this off your shoulder and say, oh man, he's just a really confident kid. Yeah, he is, and I wonder if everybody would be accepting of that type of personality.
Well, Nata, here's a question that I want to take from what Walker just said there and pivot it back to you. Like, you see a lot of these kids, you hear from these kids a lot in their as they're coming up through college. I feel like all of these players, they have to have a supreme level of confidence if they're going to make it to where they are. And the question is just like, how do they use that confidence, right?
Yeah, no, that they all are like this. They all very much are like this. The one thing about these new age basketball players, they don't like sticking to teams for very, very long. And we see that with the transfer portal, but they also are extremely confident in their own abilities, and they drill themselves into what they do best. So again, the confidence isn't going to be a thing that bothers me. It's not going to even bother the Hornets. Now, whether it bothers other teams, to be determined. But at the same point, like, I don't think that confidence is a problem at all.
Well, and just the confidence being that you can show it in different ways, because VJ Edgecombe, I think it comes across very clearly confident in his abilities, both offensively and defensively. But the comment was different than what Tre had to say. Doug, you can tell us more about it.
Well, it's interesting because I think you have Tre Johnson and Ace Bailey, two players that are very confident in their abilities, and I think they're also confident that they didn't get to fully showcase them because of the teams that they were playing on. And so it's what? You disagree?
I disagree
stuff,
with
right?
I agree with Tre. I disagree with Ace. If Ace thinks he didn't get to showcase what he could do, I understand to an extent, but I'm not sure I fully agree with that, because
and you were talking about VJ and Tre though, right, Doug?
No. I was talking about Ace.
Oh,
Ace
okay.
and Tre.
Yeah, I had VJ in my head. Okay.
No. Ace had some games without Dylan Harper. Now, granted, that was a mid-major team that he was around, but at the same point, like, there were times where he could have facilitated a lot better. There were a lot of things that he did not do. I like Ace. I think Ace is the most talented guy if he's there at 4. The problem is, if he's thinking that he couldn't showcase this stuff, he had ample opportunity. I'm sorry.
I think Ace and Tre are both super confident. I think that Tre is very thoughtful about what's made him successful. I won't say that that's what I got from him. I won't say that Ace is not that. I'm just saying that Ace is
right.
Ace is a character. He's going to be, he immediately sort of lights up a room when he comes in. And so how is that going to play with the rest of the locker room? That's the kind of questions that the front office is going to have to answer when they're trying to figure out which one of these guys to bring in. Because I think VJ is going to fit right along with the locker room. I think if the ball is going to be moving through LaMelo and Brandon a lot, then VJ is going to fit perfectly with that, because I don't think he's going to need the basketball a lot to make an impact. And I don't think that he's going to necessarily want the ball a lot to make an impact. But with these other guys, yeah, I think that's a serious question.
Well, so Doug, how do you think the Tre Johnson comments go along with Hornets DNA? Like, now that we're starting to learn who these players are, getting to speak to them, with the Hornets having a choice between possibly Ace Bailey, it looks like we're going to be pinning 2 players against each other the entire time at the same spot with Tre Johnson and VJ Edgecombe. How does his comments come across compared to maybe some of the other players that are in the draft?
I think Tre Johnson talked about a lot of the hard work that he's put into his shooting game, into becoming a clutch shooter. Again, I think you talk to certain players and they don't have a real great answer as to like why they do certain things, because a lot of these players, things come naturally to them. They have a lot of just God-given talent. But Tre, what I got from him in the just a short amount of time that I was able to speak with him, was a guy who's put a lot of thought into how he became the player that he is today, how he became the clutch shot maker that we saw at Texas. So, I think that if he gets in a room and he communicates that to Jeff Peterson and company, I think Tre, his confidence is earned, and I think he's going to be able to communicate like why that's going to be an asset to the Hornets for sure.
I wanted to get to this comment from VJ Edgecombe just real quickly because he talked about the Hornets specifically. He said most rookies, they be like, they can't guard. I want to change that dynamic, change that for sure. Just want to go out there and guard and impact the floor. I know the Charlotte Hornets. I know about the team, the roster, everything that's going on over there. I believe Rod Boone put that clip out. Charlotte Hornets Reddit picked it up as well. I wonder if he's starting to turn into the favorite because the conversation very much seems to be forming into VJ versus Tre. And then Ace is an interesting name to consider if he's available and not a pick before the Hornets select at 4 because Ace Bailey is probably the favorite to go at 3. I haven't checked FanDuel or anything like that. But it feels like we're forming into Ace, Tre, or VJ, and then really Tre or VJ, and then even favorite VJ Edgecombe, especially with him talking about the Hornets this way and then wanting to play defense. We need some rim pressure, which VJ we know has. We know about the athleticism and just the point of attack defense that helps to put alongside a LaMelo or Brandon. Like, to me, it just fits a little too perfectly compared to what the other guys are right now. That's how I see it. Nata, you're nodding your head. You see it that way as well?
Yeah, no, this guy, there's Victor Oladipo vibes with this guy. There's LaMelo lobs on the back, again, backside cuts, backdoor cuts, lobbing to VJ for just easy dunks, and guys that actually want to strap up and defend their man. That is truly Hornets DNA. We're going to come in, we're going to grind, we're going to defend. I think those are the things, like, he fits perfectly. He's saying quite literally everything I think Jeff Peterson and Charles Lee want to hear. I think he's a perfect fit. I just wonder, the only question I'll ever have about VJ Edgecombe is he going to get his handle good enough to where he can attack people off the dribble and start really taking advantage of his athleticism?
You want to take us out with your comments on that, Doug?
Yeah, I think both of these guys, and Tre Johnson and VJ Edgecombe, have higher floors, and I think that Tre's ceiling is a little bit higher just because of all of the offensive talent that he showcased. So, you know, I think VJ is a perfect fit, particularly if you want the Hornets to compete harder and compete more next season, like immediately, then VJ is going to be a pick that you like. So again, I flip-flop on these guys, and I think I'm going to continue to do that until the end of June. I'm going to love Tre one day and then wake up the next morning and love VJ. But so I think the Hornets are in a really unenviable position of having to pick from one of these guys, or Ace. I mean, if Ace falls and they have to make the call on that, because as you know, as I think, as many questions as there are around Ace Bailey's fits and his talent, I just think that, I mean, there's a lot to love. When you watch the Rutgers tape, like the way he can get a shot off, it's one of those things that you look at and you go, that's what stars do. Like, that's what future stars in the NBA are able to do early on. They're able to get their shot up when nobody else could in that position, and he can certainly do that.
It feels... I'm a little scared to say this, but it feels like we might not have a crazy toxic draft discourse leading up to this. You know, the Ace Bailey stuff could get pretty bad, I think. No. But
Walker, don't invoke it. Don't invoke it. Stop.
Fair enough.
Stop now.
Fair enough.
Stop
All right,
now.
I'm sorry. I wanted to have fun. Perhaps we get some strong takes developed for one of these guys, and then we hate the other one. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Bees everywhere!
Not to stop me dead in my tracks. No more good feelings here. Let's not bring out the possible bad feelings, which I respect, by the way.
I'm saying don't invoke the bad feelings, and you're invoking the bad feelings.
That's fair. That's totally fair. We have a mock draft to get to, and then we can get to some finishing thoughts here from Doug after his combine visit up in Chicago. Last segment still to come. LOH. Anything else, Doug, that you wanted to hit on before we take a look at the mock draft?
Chaz Lanier from UT, Knoxville.
Oh,
Go Vols.
That's right. I forgot about him.
He shot the lights out at the combine and did really well. And he's another super confident guy, wants to be the best shooting guard out of this draft. And this draft is loaded at shooting guard. So, I don't know if it's going to be anywhere near where the Hornets are going to be picking, but, just a lot of interesting prospects in this one. And I think Ryan Kalkbrenner is getting some future DPOY looks, and I think he's going to shoot it well enough. I'm just worried he's going to go into the first round. I'm really concerned that all of these guys, Max Reynaud scored 20 points in the 5-on-5.
He was awesome.
He was great. He's going to go into the first round. It's man, if the Hornets want any of these good centers that have any kind of offensive upside, I think they're going to have to trade both of these second rounders and scoot up into the first.
I don't think I think when we start talking about the centers, how many centers are really going to go in this draft, go this high in this draft? And again, this is probably a clip that you can probably save, and I'll end up being wrong. But I don't see that many first-round centers in this draft. I mean, you have Queen, you have Malawak. I think Thomas Sorber, who did not work out, who's working through an injury, is going to end up being a first-round pick. Max Reynaud was the fourth. I don't see Ryan.
Danny Wolf will be up there, right?
Yeah,
Unless you count him P4 or power forward.
Yeah, no, but you're right. Danny Wolf's another one. That's 5 centers already. I don't see we haven't even gotten to Janai Broom, who some people I'm not one of the biggest fans, but I don't see I think there's going to be an option for a center for the Charlotte Hornets if they want to stay in the second round. I think Kalkbrenner will be there.
I think Reynaud's gone though.
Yeah, no, Reynaud's gone.
Yeah, he's good, man. God, it sucks because it's funny. It was always going to happen, yet you feel like you had the leg up just because you said it first doesn't mean that you actually thought it first. When we were talking about him way early in our mock draft process, hey, man, that would be an interesting early second round selection. And now everybody's like, is he going to tickle the lottery? What's going to happen here? This guy is awesome. So, yeah, Kalkbrenner isn't getting that kind of love, but Kalkbrenner's also very interesting. And last thing, you mentioned Chaz Lanier out of Tennessee, Doug. I got to call one of his games. He's a North Florida transfer. So he played at Queens his last year at North Florida. Got to see him go for a cool 29. Easy, man. Just lights a baller, rises up above everybody in that season at North Florida. He shot 44% from three. Just a lights out shooter. And it's kind of grown man guard game, gets to his spot, big, strong, not going to get knocked off his spot. So I don't know about the athleticism with him. I think that's probably the drawback. And he's older. He's a 5-year player in college basketball. Second round, though. Okay. And we'll see.
I think he's going to end up being. I do think he's actually going to end up being closer to 45, 50 when we start talking about the draft rather than 33, 34. I do think
you wanted to talk about Cedric Coward, who had a good combine as well. He could be around the 30s when the Hornets are drafting.
I don't think he will be. I think he's gone too. I think him. I think Drake Powell, two targets who I really, really want to see in purple and teal. I think those two guys are going to be in the early 20s. It's one of those. The Hornets only end up with two players out of this draft rather than 3. I do think that we're gonna if you're talking about dramatically improving the roster and putting your stamp on this roster, I'm starting to think that those two it's gonna have to be 2 players rather than 3.
Cedric Coward is thick. He is strong. He's built like a brick house,
and has long 7-foot wingspan.
And that's kind of what concerns you a little bit about Tre Johnson, is that he ends up as a Jordan Poole who you can never put weight on. I mean, you look at his frame; it's not a frame that you generally go, yeah, that's he's going to get stronger. He's going to be able to finish at the rim through contact. VJ Edgecombe, I think you can make a little bit more of a case that can thicken up. He can get stronger. Is he going to get as strong as the comp that everyone wants to make right now? The high end comp, which is Russell Westbrook, guy that wasn't he also taken fourth?
Yeah, so he was.
And that's another guy that he mentioned VJ Edgecombe watching Russell Westbrook growing up. So
that's not necessarily a good thing. That's not necessarily a good thing.
Well, but what's also not a good thing is so many of these young players, when they were asked, who are your favorite players, who do you watch? It's KD and it's Devin Booker. It's the 2 guys on the Suns that can't make that team win. Oh man, the kids these days. I don't get it. No LeBrons. Yeah, come on.
How many Paul George references did you get this year?
Who made the Paul George? There was one. Maybe it was Ace. It was Ace Bailey who said one of his favorite players. I think it was KD and it was Paul George. And which is interesting because he might go to play with Paul George if the Philadelphia 76ers make him the pick.
Yeah, it's just a very like the influences in a lot of people's game. TikTok influences a lot with these kids. A lot, like my nephew was one of those that watches a whole bunch of highlights via TikTok, via short form video, and they get a lot of ideas from them. And a lot of the time, the guys that aren't necessarily quote unquote winners don't make it on TikTok, and therefore their games are not replicated.
Are there TikTok videos of people just going after loose ball rebounds? Is there any Moussa Diabate highlight mashup for people to play like? We need more
Only
Moussa TikToks.
Only in France.
That's true. All right. Another mock draft. Another day, another mock draft. We are on day 37. We got 61 total of these things to get through. We are quite a long ways through this. So 37th mock draft. Doug, what you got for the people?
Well, since we've got the man from Ion College basketball on, we will go to Gary Parrish, who 20 hours ago updated his mock draft, and he actually has Ace Bailey slipping down to the 5 position. And I really think if he doesn't go 3, I just cannot envision the Hornets selecting Ace Bailey at 4. Maybe I could change my mind on that as we go through individual workouts. We'll see who actually works out for the Hornets. That's always a question. But I think if he slips to 4, he slips to 5, and that's where Gary Parrish has him. He has the Hornets taking VJ Edgecombe out of Baylor, 6'5", 180. The Hornets went from having as good of odds as anybody to land flag and keep him 150 miles from where he started Duke to sliding down to 4th in this draft. That's bad luck, but they still have an opportunity to land a difference maker. Among them, Edgecombe, who is a top shelf and explosive athlete capable of creating posters in transition. He's the type of prospect who is both safe and filled with upside after helping Baylor make what was a 6th straight trip to the NCAA tournament.
I'll put it this way. I need everybody to go look for what he did at versus Gonzaga, where he posterized Mark Few's kid. Just watch that one. Just watch that one. Just watch that one highlight. It'll make you very, 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 very happy.
Yeah, I mean, he's athletic. He's super aggressive. I think he would be a great transition weapon in a different way that Josh is a transition weapon. I expected Josh Green to be a passing, corner shooting, transition master, and he just wasn't that. Nope. And so I think VJ Edgecombe is going to be somebody that puts immediate pressure on the rim, which would be great if Brandon Miller is trailing that play or LaMelo is trailing that play, because they're going to be open for 3.
Yeah, I think Josh is still at the corner right now. He hasn't left the corner at the Spectrum Center. He's there as we speak. He's going to be there. Everybody's going to show up for media day at the start of the season, and he's still going to be there. We're going to conduct interviews with him in the corner. Josh, you can move a little bit. You know that, right? Like no, I'm good right here. Everything's fine. VJ, I'm now with the NFL draft over. Like I go from grinding NFL draft film to like transitioning into NBA draft film and starting to take a look at some of these prospects and getting into Tre and VJ. I like both of them a lot. I'll say VJ with the paint stuff, I do think he's strong and just a freaking dog. Like he'll carry that basketball like a running back, not allowing anybody to knock him off his spot once he gets downhill in the middle of the paint. He actually jumps. I saw it on the Ringer draft guide too, and you could see it on film. My man jumps early as hell. Like we don't need you to jump from the free throw line every time. I kind of love it, and I also you lose some leverage on it for sure. And this isn't completely my analysis because it was on the draft guide, but you can see it on film. Mm-hmm. My man tries to Air Jordan it. Hey, one more dribble and then explode into the defender, but that's teachable, man. It's just he's a fun guy. That's a fun part. Guy.
Like that, he seems like a guy. And the one thing I will say about the scoring, and I do want to caution everybody is, or at least like anyone that's kind of down on the scoring, he played for Scott Drew. Scott Drew will tamp down your scoring intentionally. Like he's going to come out, he's going to be a better scorer than people think, because that system does not really like benefit scorers. You're meant to defend. You're meant to attack the rim. You're meant to do a whole bunch of things. I think his scoring is going to be better at the next level than people realize.
And VJ is not afraid to talk about what he needs to work on. I think some guys are afraid to do that in front of cameras and show any kind of like weakness in their game. he's not afraid to do that on the defensive end of the floor, which makes me buy when he says, like, I'm a better scorer than people think I am. I buy it because he's not afraid to talk about his weaknesses in other areas. I'll say one final thing on VJ, just, again, talking to all these guys. He has a level of seriousness that if you think the Hornets need a new level of seriousness in that locker room, I think he would be a perfect addition. Just more so than some of the other guys. Not that the other guys aren't serious, but man, VJ just seems a little bit like I am a robot programmed to improve your defense and to take every single thing that you say seriously and go out and give it my all.
Yeah, GMs love robots. I will say that they love you to
VJ
just be programmed
9000
to do that. No, I love it. That'll do it for Locked On Hornets. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free. We're available anywhere you get your podcast, and that does include YouTube. Go listen to another podcast, the Ion College Basketball Podcast. Nata produces it. You can find Nata on Twitter, by the way, as well, at Nata the Scribe. Doug Branson, everyhornetsboxscore.com. Go check out all that content. He's collected a ton of stuff from the Combine after visiting Chicago for a few days. I know he's got a Harold's Fried Chicken write-up as well, so go check out his take on lemon pepper and mild, possibly mixed in a little bit in there with Doug.
I can't wait to read that now.
That's right. He's got all that at everyhornetsboxscore.com. I'm Walker Mail. Listen to me, WFNZ, every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be back with you tomorrow.